What's up, everybody? Gonna get started in just a few seconds here. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, guys. My name's Robert, and I'm super excited to be here. I was really happy that Raj from MCATBROS asked me to be part of his IG channel. I'm going to start off by telling you guys a little bit about myself, but I really recommend questions within the live session. So, what's going up, Zara? So if you guys have any questions, feel free to just type them in. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. I'm just going to give you guys a really quick introduction about myself. So, like I said, my name is Robert. You guys might know me from Instagram at undercoverdoc. I started off as a non-traditional student. I was studying political science, really didn't know what I wanted to do, so I switched my majors. I actually moved from Minnesota to Las Vegas. Took some time off, and I thought I wanted to be a firefighter. So I started doing all the EMT prereqs, and I became an EMT. Did the EMT thing for about 4 years, a little over 4 years. And throughout those 4 years, I was taking classes part-time, working full-time. And I really decided that I didn't want to become a firefighter. I really actually liked the medicine aspect. So in 2015-16, I decided to quit my job, sell my house, become a full-time student to pursue medicine. Currently in the application cycle right now. I've had 2 interviews. I have one next Thursday, applying both MD and DO. So I'm really excited to be here. But I want to open it up to you guys. I want to open up questions to you guys. Feel free to let them type them in. I'm going to try to answer as many as I can. But let me get some show of hands. How many of you guys are non-traditional students? Feel free to give a thumbs up in the comment. All right. Couple things that I do want to mention too is how did I prepare for the MCAT, right? So I'm actually a retaker. I had to take the MCAT more than once, and the first time I did a prep course. I did the Kaplan in-person class, and it wasn't bad, right? I was taking a full load of classes at the time, so I probably didn't get as much out of the Kaplan in-person MCAT class that I would have liked. But I used all their books. I used their study programs. I don't know. I don't know if I would do it again, though. I felt like the class was more focused on MCAT tips or strategies to take while you were doing it. Any tips? Yes, I do have a ton of tips for non-science students. I'll just super quick talk about my MCAT experience, and then yes, I have a ton of tips for the MCAT for non-science students. So I did the Kaplan in-person course, didn't like it. My score reflected it. My first time wasn't a good MCAT score, so I actually reached out to MCATBROS and Raj and bought Berkeley books. I did the Berkeley the second time. Really liked their books. I used them for just about every subject except psych. I used the MCATBROS Khan Academy document, and I also used the TPR, the Princeton Review book. Really liked the book. I just wanted to, I guess I'm neurotic, so I wanted to have a book that I was reading in addition to the MCATBROS 300-page Khan Academy document. Use that thing, it's like gold. So yeah, that Psych Social is actually one of my tied for my highest score. So okay, yeah, tips for non-science majors. Typically in my group of friends that are non-science majors, okay, so this is another great question I'm going to address in just a second, premed_journey. Yeah, so tips for non-traditionals. Really play to your strong points, right? You know that you're going to do well you can do well in the cars section, right? That was actually one of my weakest points, so don't sleep on cars, guys. You want to be reading passages every day. and do them timed. I felt like that really helped me. Um, so, play to your strengths if you're not a non-science major. Um, and then the other thing is you really need to hit the areas that you might not be so hot on, right? So if you're a non-science major and you don't have a ton of background in biochemistry, this is a really big one. You need to find a way to become a biochemistry pro, right? Because biochemistry is not only on the biochem section, you're also going to see biochemistry in the chem phys section as well. So really, really want to see you become a master of biochemistry because you're going to kind of double dip. Um, so that would kind of be my take for non-science majors. Play to your strong sides, right? Do well on the cars and the psych soc, but also at the same time, don't neglect your weak areas, which probably are the science areas. So someone asked, do medical schools look down if you did your prereqs at a 2-year community college? Absolutely not. And I've actually asked this specific question to multiple medical schools. At my campus here at UNLV in Las Vegas, we are fortunate to have a lot of medical schools come to us and do speaker presentations. I got my 2-year associates at a community college, and they do not look down at that at all. A lot of times, what medical schools are going to look for is that you eventually got to a 4-year institution and that you took a rigorous course load, right? They want to see that can you, as an applicant, handle the rigor and the coursework that you're going to see in medical school. So definitely do not look down if you got a community college. And something to kind of maybe think of is this could be one of your strengths. One of my state schools, they actually really focus about community, and I kind of talked about how I got a different aspect working with more non-traditional students. And one thing that you can think of as patients, or excuse me, as future doctors, we're going to see patients from all over the world, all different walks of kinds of life. So maybe that's an experience that you got at that community college. Maybe you interacted with your non-traditional student more often. Maybe you had a class with, an elderly person who's going back to school, or a mom that's going back to school. So, these are things that you can definitely play up on. A couple people are asking what my improvement was. I had a 6-point increase. I feel like I'm talking like a thousand words a minute. I had a 6-point increase. My 2 strong sections were chem phys and psych soc, and this was kind of strategic. So the reason that I do that is I'm a chemistry guy. It's kind of my favorite subject. I love biochem. I love ochem. So I knew that I wanted to focus on that and do well. And then the other one, I felt like I could get my biggest return on my investment as far as time for psych soc. Psych soc is a competitive section, so don't kid yourself about it. But I am a psychology minor, so I felt I was going to play this up to my strengths. So chem phys and psych soc were kind of my 2 sections that I wanted to do well in, and my scores actually reflected that. So that was good. Got another question here. So, completing courses online, there's nothing wrong with this. And let's think about it logically. On your transcript, right, you're going to apply to medical school, you're going to put all of your grades in AMCAS and ACOMAs, and there is a section for was this an online course or not. A lot of times, though, I would assume that these application committees, admissions committees rather, they're really not looking so much at if it was an online course or not, right? They would probably assume that your college institution is accredited, and right, they wouldn't be offering a non-accredited online course. The only way that I could see that maybe that would be a problem would be if all of your classes were online. And the only reason that I say that is because that might be difficult for the labs components. Right? Because you can't do an online lab. You couldn't do an OChem 2 lab online. So I do not think that they look down that at all. And take advantage if you can, right? The whole thing is about being efficient, Do we want to be efficient in our classes so we can do more extracurriculars and things like that? Do medical schools look down in summer courses? I do not think so at all. I loaded up on my summer schedule every semester that I was at my UNLV, where I got my bachelor's degree. The first summer, I took 11 credits one summer and then 8 the next. So load up on your summer classes. And the good thing is, if you take a lot of summer classes, maybe you can have a lighter load when you are studying for your MCAT then. So a lot of people, I took the test more than once. So within my circle of friends, a lot of people ask me, when should I take the MCAT? And, it's different for everyone. Everyone's situation is different. So this is just my piece of advice on it, so take this for what it's worth. But I really recommend that early springtime, load up on summer classes so you can maybe have a lighter course schedule, and then in the spring, maybe around March or April, it might not be a bad time to schedule your MCAT. That'll give you plenty of time to start working over winter break, and then God forbid you do need to retake the test. This is experience talking. You will have time to register again to get in on that same application. So I would say nothing wrong with online or summer questions. I'm just scrolling through the comments, guys. I'm trying to get them all, I promise. So failing courses and retaking them. This is a question. So as far as AMCAS is concerned, and now ACOMAS, they switched this about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Retaking a class, like let's say you got a B in a class and you wanted to retake it to get an A, I don't know if I'd recommend that, right? Because you are forced to put both of those classes, you're forced to enter them both into AMCAS or ACOMAS. So they're kind of viewed as two separate classes almost, right? As far as failing, I know that's a little bit different. Every admissions committee is different, but my two state schools, I spoke to them, they're really more focused on your upward trajectory. So really that last 30 to 60 credits. So that's something that I would maybe focus on so much as if you do fail a class, like obviously you don't want to be in that position, but if you do, let's really try to focus on that last 30 to 60 credits and finish strong so admission committees can see that. Reading questions, would you suggest I ask? Yeah, so, okay, I've done a few of these. I actually just went to an open house tonight, medical school open house. The question is, the person's going on a medical school tour, they're asking, should I ask a question and pay attention? So obviously you want to pay attention all the time. And as far as asking question goes, I think you should definitely ask relevant questions. There's actually a gentleman at my open house tonight. You could tell this guy really just liked to hear himself talk. And I know that's kind of ironic because I'm doing an IG Live and I'm talking to you for an hour. But make sure you're asking intelligent questions, right? You can kind of tell sometimes admission committee maybe get annoyed if you're asking questions just to ask questions. So yeah, definitely ask questions, but let's just make sure that they're relevant. Okay, so I was really hoping I would get this question. What upper division classes are helpful for the MCAT? I'm going to spend a lot of time on this one. So it really depends on what your strengths and weaknesses are. As far as, I'm going to talk more in the bio section as far as upper division classes that I think you should take. The reason that I say that is because CARS is more of a section that tests your skill, right? You're not bringing any outside knowledge into CARS. So I'm not going to speak too much about CARS, but I really want to talk about biology. Okay, so first and foremost, highly, highly recommend that you at the bare minimum take Biochemistry 1. I would recommend that you take both of them. I have a couple friends who only took Biochem 1, and they just learned the Biochem 2 material on their own. Every institution is different, right? Every university is different depending on what they teach in Biochem 1 and Biochem 2. But, I took the MCAT a few times. Through all the full-length practice tests that I've taken, it's almost like every one there is a fatty acid hydrolysis question, right? Or the pentose phosphate pathway. And in my institution, these are Biochem 2 topics. So really, really recommend try to get both of those Biochem 2s in, especially because you're going to be double dipping. Biochem is going to be not only in Chem Phys, but it's also in the Biochem section. So really, really stress Biochem 1 and 2. The next one that I would suggest is genetics, right? I took genetics. I did really well in the class here at my university, but I still struggled with the genetics on the MCAT. I don't know if that's just because I forgot the information or I had trouble recalling it, but within my circle of friends, genetics, it didn't go away. So really, that's a big one too. Almost every full length you're going to see it. And then obviously there's some other staple upper division bio classes that you should be taking. If your institution has cell physiology, I would recommend taking that, right? All those cascade systems that they talk about in the MCAT, if you have a general idea of what's going on, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable. I actually want to take a quick second to talk about that at the end of this question. I'm going to kind of tell you some upper division bio classes that I took. I took neurobiology, really helped me. I knew everything about the brain, all of the endocrine system that's associated with the pituitary gland, hypothalamus. That was a really big one. I took any physiology class that you can take will really, really be helpful too. So I would recommend that. As far as upper division chem phys classes go, I think you can kind of just get by with the basic, so I want to be careful with how I say this, your basic physics 1 and 2. So at my institution, they have algebra-based physics and then calculus-based physics. All of the pre-meds, or at least 90% of them, take the algebra-based physics pretty good. I feel like I took algebra-based physics, I didn't do the calc route, and I feel like I did pretty well on chem phys. So yeah, chem phys, like you need to take Gen Chem 1, Gen Chem 2, and then obviously OChem. That's going to be relevant. Don't sleep on OChem. Everyone says it's just a small portion of the MCAT, but it's every test there's going to be an OChem concept, and they teach everyone that I ran into is simple things like what's the nucleophile, what's the electrophile. They'll give you a picture of a molecule and they'll ask, okay, where would the nucleophile attack here? So just simple concepts that are taught in OChem 1. They love hitting those. Okay, so I kind of touched on something, and I want to make sure I bring this up because a couple of my friends, we would talk about this all the time. In these bio passages, specifically mechanism ones, they're going to drown you with useless information. My friend Mahaki and I, we would call it getting lost in the mud, right? They're going to throw so much trash at you, so much information, and there's only 5 to 6 questions per passage, maybe 7. A lot of that, like, knowledge that they're trying to drown you in, it's not going to be relevant to the questions that they ask. So when you're reading these thick, in-depth bio passages, don't think that you need to understand every small detail as you're reading. I think a better thought process is get through the passage, try to understand as much as you can, and then look at the questions and go back if you need to. I remember it might have been the first, second, or third full-length practice test that I took, and I remember getting this mechanism on the RAN-C enzyme, and I thought I needed to know everything when I was doing the passage. Killed my time. I think I probably spent 15 minutes on that passage. So definitely do not want to do that. So I have a couple non-MCAT related questions. I'll try to maybe get those at the end if we have time. This is a question that I really want to answer. It says, would you mind walking through your study plan? Like how many hours, how many months, and what did you do? Okay, so I'm going to tell you this from 2 different tales, right? I took the MCAT twice. The first time, I was taking a full course load in my undergrad, and my advisor was awesome. He had me taking classes that were MCAT specific. So what I mean by that is I was taking an advanced comparative physiology class. So that helped me in the biochem section. As far as oxygen, CO2 transport, the kidney, we learned a lot about the kidney in that class. So this was helpful, right? And then I was taking other classes that maybe weren't so useful. But I was taking a full course load. And my goal every day was to have all of my schoolwork, homework, reading, and then I was a president of a student organization here on campus. I tried to have all of my responsibilities for classes and the organization that I was part of done by 4 o'clock. And this was tough. It was kind of like a mind game. There would be some times that I still had some reading to do, but if it was 4 o'clock, I said, nope, I need to push that aside. I'm starting my MCAT studying. So then my goal was to study from like 4 to like 9 or 10. So I was trying to get like 5 or 6 hours. That's a perfect world though. Like when I had a test coming up, it was stressful. I remember sometimes I wouldn't study for the MCAT for like 2 or 3 days, and that is so frustrating, right? You're trying to juggle your classes and write GPAs forever, so it's like I need to get an A in all these classes, but I also have this little thing called an MCAT coming up, so it was like a juggling game, and it was tough. There'd be days, I didn't hit MCAT stuff for like 2 or 3 days, and that's really, really frustrating. Okay, so that's kind of the first side of my prepping for the MCAT. Oh, and I studied the first time I took it, I moved my test back twice. The AAMC, I feel like they got a lot of money out of me that first time. Moved my test back twice. I studied about 5 to 6 months, but keep in mind I was taking that full course load. Okay, so the second time I took it, I was much more strategic about it. I was only taking one class. It was the last semester before it was the semester that I graduated. I was only taking one upper division bio class and then one credit, like nothing class. So my schedule was much more wide open to study. I was studying like I said, my friend Mahagi and I, we were studying 8 to 10 hours a day. And we did that almost every day. It was rare that we took a day off. Now, don't get me wrong, there was days that we took half days in there, or days before full lengths. We'd have a chill day before, maybe just go over our notes, things like that. But we grinded, right? And you're gonna kind of realize that's probably normal the closer that you get to your MCAT. Really, really big lesson that I learned. If there's anything that you guys get out of this IG Live, is that I learned this the second time that I was taking the MCAT, and that is you have to give yourself breaks. So I get it. We're all pre-meds. We're all probably a little neurotic, right? To try to just choose this career path, and you're telling yourself, I got to study 12 hours a day. I'm cutting everything else off. I'll get 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and I'll be fine. And I'm just gonna grind this out for 4 or 5 months. Worst decision you can make. I learned this lesson the hard way the first time I took the MCAT. You have to balance your schedule. So what do I mean by that? Everybody's different, but you have to be getting enough sleep. That thing called like a burnout that you guys have heard about when you're studying for the MCAT, it is real. Make sure you're getting 6-7 hours of sleep a night. Make sure you're staying active. One of my hobbies or things I do in my free time is I like to go to the gym, stay active. I was not doing that the first time I studied for the MCAT, and I burnt out. It was like just mentally stressful. My personal relationships, friendships were going down. So I learned the second time, I need to get enough sleep. I need to be staying active, working out. It doesn't even have to be with weights. Go do cardio, go walk around, do something, because that's going to help you relieve stress. And then the time that you are studying, you're going to be way, way, way more productive. And then the other thing that I kind of want to talk about this is when you're doing your MCAT prep, you need to have a good support system. So find a buddy, find someone that you get along with and you're going to grind out. I keep bringing up this guy like Mahaki. He's a good friend of mine. Him and I, we were MCAT bros, right? We studied all the time together. So it was good to have this support system. If I had a question on something, I'd be like, hey, how did you do this problem? How did you attack it? And vice versa, right? So it really helped to, have a battle buddy, so to say, someone to kind of go through it with. And then the other thing is you guys need to DM Raj on MCATBROS, or go to their Facebook page, actually, at MCATBROS on Facebook. This is kind of their central hub. You guys need to get in his GroupMe chat. I am so glad that I found the GroupMe chat. Tons of support. And he has a couple different chats going. He has the MCAT test going, group chat going, and then he has an application test going. So we all heard that saying, surround yourself with people that you want to become, right? And this group chat is going to allow you to do that. So you're going to be in a group with 200-300 people, and they're all grinders. They all know what they're doing. These are the real deal people, and that's just who you want to surround yourself with, right? You become part of your surroundings. So get in that group chat. It's good. You can ask questions, get motivation. There's days I did not want to study. My girlfriend was like, oh, let's go do this, and it's just kind of good to someone to understand what you're going through. So get in the MCAT Bros group chat. Definitely DM either MCAT Bros on here or their Facebook page. Okay, so kind of just wrapping up this question, how many hours did I study a day for the second time? Second test, anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day. I probably took 1 day off a week, just, to kind of make sure my mental health was where I needed to be, and I could be productive when I was studying. And I did that for about 4 or 5 months. Everyone's different though. I know people who study for 4 months, they kill it, they only have to take the test once, so everyone's different. I'm not that guy. I'm a non-traditional student. I need a little bit more time. And I really like to live by the, leave no stone left unturned philosophy, so that's why I wanted to take the extra time. Really, another great question. Do you think it hurts your chances if you have to take the MCAT more than once? This is a tricky question, but I'm going to give you my personal experience on it. Absolutely not, is my opinion on it. So the reason that I say that is because I'm actually going to take a water break real quick. I don't think it hurts your chances at all. I actually think you can play into this, and this can be a strength. Why do I say that? It shows perseverance, okay? So when you're applying to medical school, they're going to be looking at your MCAT, your GPA, your extracurriculars, all this stuff, but there is one thing that they cannot test for, and that is perseverance. So I had to take the MCAT once, and I actually use this as a strength. One of my medical school applications, they straight up asked me, if you were on an admissions committee, what would be the thing that that you'd look for? And the way that I answered that question is I said, grit would be the number one thing that I would look at. I'd say that a lot of competent people apply to medical school, right? They all have great GPAs, MCATs, extracurriculars, all this great stuff, all fine and well. But at the end of the day, can you handle a medical school workload, and can you do that for 4 years, right? They always say, like, medical school is like taking 27 credits a semester. Like, do you have the grit? So if you had to take the MCAT more than once, turn this negative into a positive, right? Say that, you can kind of frame this as, yeah, I did have to take the MCAT more than once, but I learned so much about myself throughout the process. I realized that this is something that I truly want to do because I was willing to go through this super grueling process, not only once, but twice. You said you wanted 2 servings of it. So play into that. That's a strength. And to be fair, the other thing too is don't let the stigma of having to take the test more than once, don't think that's a bad thing. Like, there are so many people who have to take this test more than once. So own up to it, make it a positive. Did you do one subject at a time, or did you mix them up? Okay, great question. Definitely mix your subjects up when you're studying for the MCAT. So I actually had a friend of mine, and won't mention his name, but he was maybe a little bit hard-nosed, and he literally took the psych-soc book, he read the entire book, set it aside. Then he read Bio 1, read the whole thing, set it aside. Bio 2, read the whole thing. And the reason that you do not want to do that is because when you're on your third or fourth book or subject, you're going to forget everything that you learned in that first book, right? So no bueno, right? The preparing for the MCAT, it's usually a couple months process, so if you employ that strategy, you will forget what you learned in the first book. Alternatively, and there's a ton of different plans out there. Actually, Berkeley, they recommend a study plan. Really good. Mahaki and I, we use that roughly. We also, you can Google this, right? Jump on the Google machine. This guy named Premed95, I would look into him. He came up with kind of a good study plan, but there's a ton of study plans out there. In a nutshell, the reason that you want to do 1 chapter a day, or however many chapters you can do like 1 chapter a day in one subject and then do another, it's because they kind of coincide, right? So like, for example, you could be doing a Gen Chem subject, and then the next day you could be reading a physics subject, and they could be totally related, right? So like in physics, they love them some batteries, right? So you need to know everything about the different types of batteries. And a lot of the concepts in the batteries, which is a physics subject, is all about, different charges and separations of charges, which is a chemistry subject, right? So definitely layer your subjects. I think it'll be really useful for you. And then, kind of like an aside to this question, I definitely want to bring this up because this helped my group of friends study, and is you guys are gonna run into days where you're tired, you're exhausted, maybe you just got beat up by a full length and you're like not feeling so hot. Pick that subject that you're really good at then and study that, right? Because little progress is better than no progress. So, for example, like psych soc, that was my subject. I just liked the material. I thought it was interesting. So on days that I didn't like, I wasn't dialed in. I maybe didn't have the drive that I wanted to. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna kill psych soc today, right? I'm gonna become a master of social psychology, like that section, and that way, you're still being productive, but you're not like killing yourself. I could really talk about this subject for like a whole hour itself, but I think it's important to mention that you guys are going to realize that the studying for the MCAT is a marathon. It is not a sprint by any means. So you need to be smart with your studying plans, right? Take one day off a week, right? Because if you're just grinding every day, you're not taking a break. You know, if we use this marathon example, by mile 12, you're going to be burnt out and you're just going to want to throw in the flag. So take a day off, and then on days that you're just like not feeling it, do the subject that you really enjoy. And then let's actually talk about the flip side of that a little bit. Cars needs to be an everyday thing. Cars, cars, cars. Do it every day. I took the MCAT twice. Cars was my lowest section both times. And I take full responsibility for that. I didn't like cars. I did not like reading cars. I was more of a chem guy, so I was like, oh, I just want to study all the chem that I can because I enjoy it. Same with psych soc. And I kind of neglected cars. Cars needs to be an everyday thing. You know, if there's days that you don't feel like doing the science stuff, hit cars. Do like 10 passages a day. Do 20 passages a day. Don't do them straight. Maybe like take a break in between, right? Like what Mahaki and I would do is we would do about 5 passages at a time, maybe 4, and time them at a pace of roughly 10 minutes a passage, and do a block of like 4 of those. And then, you know, maybe grab lunch, go over your psych soc notes, and then, you know, do another block of 4. Okay, I lied. 20 full length, or excuse me, 20 cars passages would probably be a little much. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like if you don't want to do a science section, pick one that you want to, and go from there. Okay, so people are asking me about different resources. I really, really, really liked the Berkeley Review. Really liked them. I actually messaged MCATBROS, and he is a great resource. His name's Raj. He's super cool. You guys like definitely follow him, and I'm not just saying this because I'm doing an IG live with him. I actually called him like a month before my MCAT, and I was like, you have no, you know, I pretty much told him like, hey, you have no idea who I am. I got your number from a friend who bought books from you. Like, I need some advice. And he was super cool. He talked to me for like 30 minutes. This is a guy who never knew, didn't know who I was, never talked to me, and we kind of came to the decision that it was time for me to move my MCAT back. So the whole reason that I bring this up is like, when you're buying MCAT materials, you want to buy them from someone that you can trust, right? Not just some random person on the internet. I've had friends who've bought MCAT books and there's just drawings all, like pen marking all there. So go to MCATBROS. He's honest, he's Elias, and he has just about everything. So that's my little plug for them. But yeah, I use TBR, the Berkeley Review. If you're going to buy TBR books for any subjects, make it be chemistry. Chemistry is great. Really, really like the way that they broke it down, and they got into the nitty gritty too, which I feel like helped me. Chem Phys and Psych Soc were my 2 highest scores, tied, and I do contribute that to TBR. Their physics book is great. They have these little shortcuts. So like things for like terminal velocity, they had like a shortcut that really helped me out. So these are things that I really, really like for TBR. The only subject that I did not use the Berkeley Review TBR was Psych Soc. I used TPR, Princeton Review. If you kind of Google, I'm sure all of you have, best Psych Soc study materials, kind of the general consensus is Kaplan and the Princeton Review are really, really good for psych soc. So, a friend of mine, they just had an extra TPR book for psych soc, so I grabbed it off them, read the entire book, and then I used the con document that Raj made. So DM him or go to their Facebook page at MCATBROS, and he can get you this 300-page document. If you guys don't know what it is, I'll give you the quick 2 seconds on it. He watched every psych soc video on Khan Academy and took notes on it. And then they added pictures. So that document is a great supplemental resource for psych soc. I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. So just to kind of recap, I did Berkeley Review for just about everything, and then I did the Princeton Review and Khan Academy for psych soc, and I felt like it really helped me. Oh, one thing that I did do too was for cars, because you're going to need passages, I did like everything. I did Kaplan, I did TPR, I did another one that's escaping me now. I can't think of the name. So yeah, oh, I'm kind of scatterbrained too. The other thing that I would recommend is Berkeley Review. They're good for bio, but I would supplement that with another book. I really liked Kaplan's biology book, biology and biochem book. Unfortunately, you guys are going to realize that not every testing company kills it on every section. I do think above and beyond that the Berkeley Review did a really good job on all the subjects, but they could be supplemented on bio. So grab the TPR or Kaplan bio book to supplement Berkeley, and then grab the Khan Academy 300-page psych soc doc. And don't be overwhelmed by that. You're hearing 300 pages and you're like, oh my gosh, it's an easy read, super chill. It's plain language, right? Because someone actually like took notes on it. So so that would be what I'd recommend. Oh, okay. I have a fellow UNLV rebel asking me a question. What was the most efficient way of studying for the MCAT? Online course, strict book reading, etc. This is a tough question to answer. And I am going to kind of give you a couple different answers here. First and foremost, I'm going to say you need to stick to what is best for you, right? Everyone learns differently, and they have different strengths and weaknesses, so to say. Now I'll give you my perspective. I took the Kaplan in-person course, spent $2,000 on it, $2,000. It was $2,500. I signed up for an AMSA membership and I got $500 off. Can't say I would recommend it. I would even go as far to say that I can confidently say I wouldn't recommend it, and I would advise anyone who's thinking of doing it of not doing it. I'm not saying that the Kaplan books aren't great, but I feel like I definitely did not get my money out of the Kaplan in-person course. I do have 2 friends who did the Princeton Review online course, and I actually kind of watched them go through it on some of them. From what I could tell, the Princeton Review online course was much better than the Kaplan one. Kaplan was like a lot of gimmicks, I felt like. They didn't go over content, it was more like tips and tricks, and when we were in class, we'd hit like minor concepts here and there, and they're pretty chill. Like, I remember one class we went over like Berkline-Weaver plots and biochem, and I don't know, I just feel like that's kind of the Berkline-Weaver plots, it's kind of like we know we need to know those, right? Vmax, Km, these are concepts, biochem concepts that are kind of like, yes, I know I need to know those. So I don't know, I feel like they hit a lot of high yield stuff, so don't know if I'd recommend it. So I'm kind of answering this question 1,000 different ways. Stick to what's best for you. I can't say I'd recommend the Kaplan in-person course. Me personally, I'm a book person. I physically like having a paper book in front of me. I had old PDFs of some MCAT books. I didn't care. I wanted to buy my own books so I could write in them, make notes. And I don't know, I feel like it's like a little bit more tangible if I have a book in front of me versus me staring at my computer screen. Because that'll happen towards the end of your MCAT prep when you're doing the section banks, question packs, all that stuff. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I know it's kind of a little bit different there. Matthew says, great advice, Robert. Hey, thank you, Matthew. Oh, and we saw each other at tour today. Okay, awesome. Someone's asking, what's my opinion on gap years? Yeah, I really like it. I took a gap year, and the reason that I liked it is because it allowed me to spend more time studying for the MCAT, but it also allowed me to really maximize other parts of my application. So what do I mean like that? Um, I did a ton of volunteering. I already had a lot of volunteering hours, but I packed on even more. I was an EMT before I went back to school, so I didn't need a lot of patient contact hours. So I really focused on volunteering. I got even better letters of recommendation than I did before. And then I think the big thing though is if you take that gap year, you have nothing, I mean nothing but time for MCAT, right? The first time that I took my MCAT when I was taking a full course load, it was super discouraging knowing that my friends who were sitting in the library were graduated. This is all they were doing. All they were doing was MCAT stuff, and I was playing the juggling game between, okay, I got to do my animal behavior, reading, and then after that I got to go do MCAT stuff. So gap year, I would actually highly recommend it. Someone just asked me what are the best resources to use. I already answered this question, so feel free to go back and watch it. And then Raj, our MCATBROS, is actually going to post a YouTube video of this too, so you can check that out now. I am not in medical school right now. I'm in the process of applying. I took my MCAT this summer, so I've had a few interviews. I got a few more coming up, so hopefully next year hopefully in a few months I can tell you that I'm accepted, but yeah, okay, so someone's asking me what my research lab was like. I'll just briefly touch on this. I didn't do a traditional biology lab for research. I actually did a psychology lab. I took cognitive psychology, really, really liked it. So I just went up to the professor after class one day and I told him, hey, I want to be in your lab. What do I got to do to make this work? And that worked out for me. And I think that actually helped me on my psych-soc section with experimental design. So for those of you who are getting ready to study for the MCAT, if you are in a lab, don't just be in the lab to put on your CV. When you're there, try to learn as much stuff as you can because it will be relevant. Whether it's on the MCAT for experimental design questions, different lab techniques, they ask them. So like know them all, right? Every different kind of plots is on there. But yeah, really just make the most of your time in lab. Don't just be there to put it on your CV. Learn as much as you can. And yeah. Kaplan's saying, I actually don't think. Okay, so someone's saying that they don't think you would forget the concepts if you read one book at a time. Or at least I think I'm getting your question right, and everyone's different. That could be totally true for you. If someone's saying that they're in the Kaplan class and they like it, they connect the ideas, that's great. I'm only giving you my personal opinion, so take it for what it's worth. I personally didn't like the Kaplan course, but that doesn't mean that other people didn't really like it. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. If I could go back and do it again, I definitely would not drop $2,000 on it. So someone's asking my study habits between taking the test the first time and the second time. I touched on this earlier in the video, so you can watch it after, but briefly, the first time I took it, I was taking full classes, so I didn't have a whole lot, like full course loads for my undergrad, and studying the MCAT, so I didn't have as much time. Second time, I used the Berkeley books, and I was only taking one class, so I had much more free time. So how long did I study? Okay, so I briefly touched on this. I believe MCATBROS did a really interesting poll on this maybe a couple months ago. I would caution anyone who thinks that they are going to get all of their studying done in 4 months. If you're that person and you get a 512 on the MCAT and you study for 4 months, like, good for you. I'm genuinely envious. I just don't think that's the case for everyone. I really think that, and here's kind of another thing that made me think about. I hear this all the time. People's like, oh, well, I have to take the MCAT in April because my advisor set up this whole plan. Guess what? If you rush the MCAT, it is gonna turn around and kick you in the face, right? Like, this is the hardest test that you've taken so far in your um, scholarly career, so to say. Don't rush it. Respect the MCAT, right? Like this is a real thing. So I would say, how much time do you need? It's going to depend on the individual, what courses you took in undergrad or what courses you didn't. So the person who wasn't a science major, maybe you have to spend more time going over the different science subjects, especially biochem. So it's kind of a tough question to ask for everyone. Someone's asked me what's the opinion of the Kaplan books, and this is Bianca, and I'd actually recommend DM me after this because I have some resources for you. But my opinion on the Kaplan books, I think they're good. I used them the first time. I did not do well on my first test, not because of the Kaplan books. Okay, so I said that confusing. I used the Kaplan books the first time. I didn't do well on my MCAT the first time, but it's not because I used the Kaplan books. It's because I was taking a full course load. I think the Kaplan books I think they're good, right? I think they excel in psych-soc and biochem. And not a lot of people would think that. They would think, oh, they're good at, I don't think they're that good at biochem. Biochem, they're great. Like, they are really good. Berkline-Weaver plots, all the enzymes, all the different inhibitors for enzymes, they really, really go into detail. So biochem, psych-soc, I thought that Kaplan did a really, really good job. I feel like they did a fair job in psych-soc. Again, this is just my opinion, because I'm sure some of you are hearing this and you're like, I love Kaplan. This is just my opinion. I really feel like the bread and butter is Berkeley for Chem, Phys, and OChem. Like, buy those books, Berkeley, Chem, Phys, OChem, and I think you're really going to be happy with them. They do go into a lot of detail, but when I did those sections, like, I felt really good on the MCAT. Here's something else I want to talk about. Okay, on MCAT day, test day, D-day, you're going to be super nervous, guaranteed, right? Unless you're a crazy person. You're going to be super nervous, right? So if you can do really well in that first section, which is Chem Phys, it is going to set the entire day up, the rest of your testing day, really well. I would talk to Mahaki and I about this. I was like, I want to have like good vibes going into test day. So that's I also like Chem, but that was kind of one of my thought process of really wanting to hit this section hard. And I did feel good. After that first section, I went on my break. I was like getting my water and stuff, and I was like, okay, I like this. I got my first section done. Like, let's roll into the rest of the afternoon. So it's mind games, but I think in the end it really helped. Someone's asking if I worked full time during the MCAT, and if so, how did I manage my time? So I kind of have a couple different answers to this. No, I did not work full time, but I had a lot going on in my undergrad the first time I took it. I had a full course load. I was a president of a student organization on campus that had over 200 members, and I did a tutoring on the side, so not full time. So I was busy that first time. How would you manage this if you did work full time? My advice to you would be live in your calendar. And what do I mean by that? You need to schedule study time and stick to it. And you can't just put MCAT study. It needs to be like, I'm studying biochem chapter 3 on this date from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. So study everything. And it's going to be tough, right? If you do work full time, but this sounds super corny, but like, you're going to remember these years studying for your MCAT for the rest of your life. Like, I plan on telling my kids, like the battle, right, of taking the MCAT twice and kind of what I learned through it and how I grew throughout the process. So embrace it, like, this is a really important time in your life. It's exciting too, right? Like, you have the opportunity to study for the MCAT, not the obligation, right? So that's like something Mahaki and I would say. You have the opportunity to take the MCAT, not the obligation, right? Enjoy your time. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, you're going to put in some really, really long hours, but no one's forcing you to do this, right? Like, you're fortunate enough to be in a position to apply into med school and taking the MCAT. So I think if you kind of look at the MCAT with that mindset, it makes it a little bit different. So yeah. Would you advise sticking to more content or more strategy? Great question. This is actually, okay, I'm glad someone asked this. There is 2 phases to your MCAT prep. I should have brought this up earlier because we only have 10 minutes left, but there's 2 phases to your MCAT prep. The first phase is going to be your content review. And then the second phase is going to be doing practice problems. And there's a lot that goes, a lot of questions to go on there. So get your content done as fast as you can, and then start doing practice problems, right? All the section banks, all the sample packs, get through those all the way. I read, when I was doing the MCAT, I read the entire passage, then I went to the questions. I would not recommend reading the questions first. That's just my personal strategy, but just get through the whole passage. What do you know about depending on the month you take the exam to get a higher or lower score? That's, take this for what it's worth. I do not have concrete knowledge on this, but it doesn't matter when you take it. Like, I don't think you're going to have a higher score because you took your MCAT in March, or a higher score because you took your MCAT in June. You got to remember, you're taking this test with people from all across the country. Everyone is in a different situation. So I don't think you're going to have a higher or lower score based off what month you take it, just based off other people, because you got to remember there's so many data points. There's thousands of people taking this, so they have a lot of data. So I wouldn't worry about that so much. Take it when you feel that you're ready. Depending on others, yeah. Don't worry about when you take it. Just do it when you think that you're. When should a person take the MCAT if they graduate in the fall? That's a tough question. I really say that take it when you think that you're ready. So what does that mean? Like, a lot of people, you always hear, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to take it yet. Well, this is what, in my opinion, being ready to take the MCAT would be. You've gone through all of your content. You've gone through all of the AAMC material. So what is that? All of the section banks, all of the sample packs. I don't know if they're section banks, sample packs, whatever. There's like 1,040 questions in the section banks and sample packs. So that's a ton. And you can't just take them, right? Afterwards, you need to figure out why you got it right, why you got it wrong. Put that into Google, and there's going to be a ton of posts on Reddit and SDN, people discussing these questions. And then I would say at the bare minimum, you need to take 6 full lengths. This is different for everyone, so take this with a grain of salt. Between both tests, test 1 and test 2, I think I probably took 13 full lengths. Bare minimum, you need to take the AMC unscored. So it's a real test, it's timed. They don't give you a score per se, but they give you a percentage of how you did well, and then there's a ton of converters online. So you need to take that. Then there's 3 scored AMC tests. You need to take those. So that's 4 right there. And then I did a ton of next step full lengths. I did a few Kaplan. I did 2 exam crackers. I really like the exam crackers tests. So that's something to think about. What did I use for prep work? I answered this earlier in the video. Just go ahead and scroll back or watch it afterwards. Okay, so what did I use for cars? This is really important here. I'm probably not the best person to ask. I did kind of poor in cars, not once but twice, so I had to make up for it in other sections. So I don't want to give you bad advice on how to prep for cars because I just didn't do well in that section either time. I personally used for passages. Where did I get my passages? I bought the Princeton review book. There's Princeton Hyperlearning, Kaplan. But yeah, I don't want to give you bad advice for cars because I really didn't do all that well. Do you think I can take 12 credits and still study for the MCAT? Not very hard classes. This sounds super cliche, but I really believe in this. You can do anything that you want. Like, you could take 18 credits and study for the MCAT and still be successful, but you got to realize it's going to be difficult, right? So one of my questions would be, do you work? What obligations do you have outside of your classes in MCAT? Do you have a significant other, right? You need to make sure you're maintaining relationships, friendships, all these things. So I can't give you a solid answer on that, but bare minimum, I would try to spend 4 to 5 hours a day, every day, taking 1 day off for a couple months. this is going to be different for everyone. There's no cookie cutter, like you need to study this many hours to get this score. If that's the case, like we would all just study for this for 2 years and all get 520s, right? So hopefully that helps a little bit. So someone's asking me TPR supplement with Kaplan or TBR. I think you'd be good either way. So this person's asking, they're going to use the Berkeley review books and then supplement with Kaplan or TPR. I think you would be, I think you could supplement with either or and still do well. Okay, so someone just asked me a really funny question, and I do not take offense to this. They said, what is your second language other than English? Oh no, I'm sorry, they're not asking me this question. They're saying if you're speak a language other than English and English is your second language, can you still do better than cars? You can absolutely do better in cars. You know, I want you guys to have the mindset when you're prepping for your MCAT that any score is achievable. Like literally any score. It's just how much time you guys are willing to put in, right? It's not a direct correlation. If you put in this many hours, you're going to do better on your MCAT, but there is definitely a loose correlation there, right? Like the more time that you put in, the better score you're going to get. So if English is your second language, you're going to have to spend more time on cars. You might just in general have to spend more time on all the subjects, but yeah, cars is going to be a challenge for you. But that's okay. You can overcome it. You know, how are you going to overcome that? You should probably get a cars tutor. I actually reached out to MCATBROS and I got a cars tutor, and I wish I would have done it earlier because I was like a month out and I was panicking. I was like, I need a cars tutor. Start earlier. I really think if I would have used the tutor that Raj set me up with earlier, I would have done better in cars. So I highly, highly recommend if you guys need help with specific subjects, DM MCATBROS or go to the Facebook page. And the reason that I say that is they don't put their name on just any tutor. Like the people that they're asking to tutor, these are dialed in people. They're not screwing around. Like the person that helped me with cars, like I didn't do that well in cars, but my tutor was amazing. Like I looked at passages different ways than I wouldn't have if I didn't use her. And who knows, my score might even have been worse if I didn't use a cars tutor. So if you need help in a specific subject, like reach out to MCATBROS, reach out in the group me, because he's the only type of people that he's going to recommend are super dialed in. He's not putting his name just on anyone. Like these people are. They're like friendly, and that's important, right? Because you don't want to spend time with someone that's like a dick. But don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help because like he's built this MCAT ecosystem. It's not like he just started doing this yesterday, so he can definitely help you out. Someone's asked me how long did it take for content review. This is going to be one of the last questions that I answer. But before I answer this question, I'm going to give myself a shameless plug. If you guys want to follow me, I'm at undercoverdoc, D-O-C, at undercoverdoc. You guys can actually DM me questions that I wasn't able to get to, and I'd be more than happy to help you out. I'm trying to give back as much as I can. So DM me at undercoverdoc, D-O-C, and I'll help you out. I have a minute 50 left. So how long did it take me for content review? It took me, I think, about 2 months, and I was going pretty hard. I literally I had the mentality I'm going to leave no stone unturned. So that included me reading all, can we go to the gym? Yeah, we'll go to the gym sometimes. But that included me reading all of the content, watching all of the psych, soc videos, like watch them. They're really good. Put them on 1.5 speed. That's just the content too, right? I would say like the content is maybe 35 to 40% of your prep though. The reason that I say that, the other 60% is going to be doing section banks, sample packs from AMC, and then full lengths, right? Full lengths right? It's a whole day to do a full length, but then you have to review it. And reviewing the full length, arguably more important. Dr. Dentist Duo, what's up, guys? I appreciate the support. You guys definitely need to follow Dr. Dentist Duo 2022. They are awesome, good friends of mine from UNLV. Follow them; they're great. It's kind of an aside, but yeah, the full lengths are going to take a long time, so don't sleep on those. I would leave a long time for that. One thing that I want to say before I have 30 seconds left is, you guys are not in this alone. There's a ton of support out there. Reach out to MCATBROS, reach out to your friends, make relationships that you guys have maybe on campus. You guys are going to get through this together. Tons of people have taken this test in the past. Ton more people are going to take in the future. So just take it one day at a time. I have faith in you guys. I'm really glad I had the opportunity to do this. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully I helped you guys out. Again, follow me at undercoverdoc. DM me questions.